Okay. Recovery prevalence. Here's the great news. When we study people who once met DSM-4 criteria for a substance use disorder, either abuse or dependence, and we come back and survey them in community surveys and say, did you meet this criteria for the past 12 months? And in some studies verify that with family members. In other studies we verify it through chemical drug testing. We find what? We find high rates of recovery. We find recovery in the 50, 60 percentile range. And I'm talking about all people who once met criteria. So what's the news is good. Long range, most of the people, over half, who once met criteria will not have met that criteria for the past 12 months. Now, hang on to that, because there's a problem with the 12 months I'm going to tell you about a little later. So what that forces us to do is think in these terms. We have individuals who've met full recovery by the Betty Ford three-part definition. Do we have other individuals that you've treated, that we know in our recovery fellowships, who will never get a 25-year chip, who will never get a 5-year chip? They have what we call, in the general world of medicine, or in the world of mental health, we would call this partial recovery. We've had a dramatic reduction in the frequency and intensity and consequences of the disorder. The disorder is still there and periodically rises. In many cases, with a structured program of recovery, they quickly rebound and re-enter. These are these people that keep coming in. They keep coming back and talking about a slip that they had. And they may do that for a long time before they get, some of them will get continuous sobriety, and some of them will never get continuous sobriety. But what's happened to the quality of their life based on 10 or 15 or 20 years in a fellowship? We've dramatically elevated. What have we done to the quality of their family life based on that? What about the damage to the community? Dramatically lowered based on that. We also have, this is the hidden story of recovery. I do not stay in the field of addiction treatment for 40 years because I love spending time with people days in recovery. I don't think people in days in recovery are particularly charming. Can I just be blunt on this? This is not the people I want to fill my life other than through my service work. But let's be very clear, when my service work is done, I ain't going to go hang with them. But what about people with 25 and 35 and 40 years? There's the hidden story. There aren't too many other conditions. Cancer, by the way, is one. How many of you know somebody with cancer where a confrontation with cancer virtually transformed who they were as a person in terms of the quality of their life and the clarity of their values, the kind of way they lived and interacted and the way they served, what they got into later. And then you hear them and you think they're nuts because they talk about, thank God for my cancer. Because my life was so shallow and so empty before I had that confrontation. And that really was the beginning of who I am today as a person. There are many people in long-term recovery who get better than well. And what I'm talking about by better than well is I'm describing that in terms of the quality of their health. I'm talking about the quality of their character and their values, and most importantly, the quality of their service to the larger community. They live incredibly exemplary lives. And these are some wonderful people to find and spend time in your life with. These are the people, by the way, who also shifted from addiction carriers, because some of those people were pretty charismatic in their addiction years as well. They're now recovery carriers. If you don't want to get recovery, you better stay away from these people. You hear me? Because you can catch it in spite of yourself if you get very close to them. And some of you know who some of those people are.